Quest to Succeed, Chapter 25. Jay had his own problems to solve. He and his family did really face problems in those early years. When his wife returned from her parents' home to New Delhi, Nakul's family made it difficult for them to live peacefully. Riena had to do all the domestic work, including cooking and cleaning for that family. She did not have much time for her own children, for whom she was fully responsible in the absence of her husband. There was no place where she could rest. Nakul's wife, on the other hand, thought that they were a burden on her and her family. Riena bought her own food supplies and paid a rent. She was not allowed to live in a separate flat. In the summer season, they used sleep in the open courtyard of the house. There was not much space in the rooms, and there was no electric fan. One night it started to rain. They needed to come into the room. Nakul's wife, however, shut the door and left them outside in the rain. They had to spend the night standing under a balcony in order to protect themselves from the rainfall. Yet they got drenched. When Jay found out about that incident, he concluded that it was the worst period of their lives. He started to consider Nakul and his wife's behavior in this episode. Why did she act the way she did? Nakul's wife was illiterate. She still lived with primitive instincts of sex and hunger. Nakul did not take her out on holiday or for shopping with him. She had not seen the real world of those days. They never went to Chandni Chowk, Kari Bavli, or Connaught Place, the shopping centers of Delhi, and visiting places for people, not only from Delhi but from around the country and the world. She never went to cinema or a theater. She gave birth to 10 children. Some died at birth, but she continued to produce to replace them. Her world was narrow. She did not know how to deal with relatives or the extended family. She was often annoyed when Nakul invited a relative to their house. She was thick-headed but heavyweight. Whenever she spoke to others, it sounded as if she was shouting. She could never engage into a quiet conversation. Nakul was a college graduate, but lightweight. Rather than attempting to lift his wife in social strata, he himself went down in status with her. He did not behave like a middle-class educated person. His food habits and living standard were those of a working class. They both had limited understanding of the universe and the society. That could be the reason that Nakul's wife shut the room's door for Jay's wife and children when they were standing in the rain at night. Many people questioned, how could someone make the young children stand in the rain at night? This was, however, like a scene in a Hindi movie displaying poverty and bad days. Jay's father took his family from Delhi to the village, but some younger members of the family made their life miserable. Riena and the children had to return to Delhi to face the same affliction and hardship. They had to live in a small kitchen, which was the only place available in that big house. Jay was not aware of any of these happenings. His wife never wrote of the adversities or the problems they encountered in his absence. There was a saying that when the problems come, they come in trains and never alone. Jay had sent enough money for his family to live comfortably. He, however, deposited this sum with Nakul because Riena did not have a bank account or a safe place in the house to keep the money. He had written to Nakul that he should pay Riena every month at least the same amount, which he was receiving as a salary when he lived and taught in Delhi. Riena should not ask him for funds because it was her bucks. Nakul did not do that. Riena had to ask for her own rupees of him. Nakul often questioned why did she need that much cash, as if he were lending his money to her, but feared whether he would receive it back or not. He, however, sent an account when Riena and the children came to join Jay in England. It provided details of all money received, and the expenses occurred over the 2 years. Nakul was an amazing man who pretended to be a nice person in the community, but he was shrewd, cunning, controlling, and a covetous character. Jay was aware of Nakul's narrow outlook. He started to analyze his character. He found Nakul selfish, greedy, and distrustful. Selfish people tend to be excessively and exclusively concerned with their own interests. They look for their own advantages, pleasure, and welfare. They disregard the interests of others. They are self-seeking, egocentric, and exploitative. Nakul was also jealous of Jay's accomplishments and success. Other traits of a jealous person were suspicion, possessiveness, aggression, and manipulation. They tend to be friendly from outside but bitter inside. They harbor envy and exhibit hatred and hostility. They even hold a grudge and work to crush others and bring them down. Jay saw all these characteristics in Nakul. In his psychological analysis, he would not offer or propound Nakul as a narcissist, but he had a borderline personality disorder. Such people think that whatever others have gained was unfair. They did not deserve it. Their achievement in wealth, education, and status was unfair. They attempt to control their near and dear and would not let them express themselves. They were often told to keep quiet. We will deal with your situations and circumstances. About others' property or wealth, they would say that they do need that much, or they do not deserve it. Jay tried to avoid and evade Nakul, who would not give up on him. He often returned to his old tricks of greed, bullying, self-interest, egoistic, jealousy, and parsimonious. His neighbors and relatives told Jay that whenever they visited him, he talked about him. He was surprised that Jay has made so much progress. He wanted a share of his earnings, as he had done in the past. Nakul had no role in Jay's life. He was living in a different country and had faced enormous problems about which Nakul did not want to know. Nakul did not care about the effect of his actions on others, either socially or psychologically. In one sense, he had developed an inferiority complex without realizing it. Still, he wanted to be treated as a conspicuous person without displaying any remarkable features. Jay did not owe him anything. On the contrary, he had done a great deal for him without making it public. He also forgave him and his family for their unforgivable demeanor. He, however, did not forget their conduct and undertakings of the times gone by. At one stage, Jay thought that rather than being jealous of his achievements, Nakul should have worked hard and earned wealth in order to meet his family's demands. He should have attempted to rise in society by undertaking good and constructive work. He should have set out to help the needy who would have shown some respect and social regard for him. He did not do that. His attributes and behavior reflected his utter enviousness and resentment. His accomplishments had been minimal. He asked Jay to send goods for his family and friends and never made any payment. He even cheated their dad, who felt very hurt. Nakul was an amazing man who pretended to be a nice person in the eyes of the relatives and neighbors, but he was a shrewd, cunning, controlling, and covetous character. He lost all respect from his siblings and relatives who closely observed him. In this sense, he was an unsuccessful person whose accomplishments were negligible. It has been noticed that selfish people tend to be greedy and distrustful. They want everything for themselves and are excessively or exclusively self-centered. They look for their own advantage, pleasure, and welfare. They are self-seeking and megalomaniac. They look for their own gain. Greed leads to envy, anger, resentment, inadequacy, helplessness, and disgust, which could lead to breakup of relationship. Lord Krishna made a logical interpretation when he wrote in the Bhagavad Gita, "An ignorant man sees another person with more objects of enjoyment than he has. The fire of jealousy gets kindled in his heart and it begins to burn him." Jealousy often stems from low esteem, high neuroticism, and a feeling of possessiveness. There was no cure for this trait. It had been compared with craving. Jay concluded that Nakul might have these attributes. A jealous person resents another person because of his success. Some other traits of a jealous person were suspicion, possessiveness, aggression, and manipulation. They harbor envy and exhibit hatred and hostility. They even hold a grudge and work to crush and bring people down. After considering many characters, Jay asked himself a question as to why people become wrapped up in themselves in the first place. It could be the consequence of their upbringing, social norms, their first-hand experiences, and psychological features. Individualistic behavior could be caused by their insecurity, fear, or lack of empathy. Such people think that they could do no wrong, which makes them hypersensitive. They could not comprehend any positive suggestion. Still, they think that they would bring good values to others. Jay believed and observed that such people tend to be less successful than those who help others. They would not realize the importance of supporting people around them. During a short visit to India, Jay's dad expressed a desire to spend some time with him and his family in London. Jay, however, did not have enough time to obtain a passport for his dad. Their dad tried to seek help of Nakul's, who flatly refused to fill in a passport application form and obtain any other documents. Jay's dad's wish to visit England remained unfulfilled. Jay and his dad, however, continued their correspondence, as in the past. For a few months, his dad moved to live in Delhi. He, however, wrote to Jay that he found it difficult to live in Delhi with a family who mistreated him and cheated him. They did not look after him. He had to return to the village. He stated that he had many things to tell him, Jay, about the attitude of the family. He would reveal everything if they met, and if he passed away, many explanations would go with him. It was not the first time that Jay's dad missed him. He was told that about a decade earlier, when his youngest brother was getting married, there were rejoicings everywhere. His dad was surprised to see that none of Jay's brothers and sisters recalled his absence on that occasion. They did not miss him at all, or thought that a member of the family was not present at the wedding rejoicings. For Jay it was not new. He knew that for his siblings he was not relevant. He had lived away from home for a long time. Out of sight meant out of mind. Yet they often sought financial assistance. Sometimes they asked for usable articles, both durable and for everyday use. They did not think whether he had resources or not. He did not go into details about individual members of the family. Every one of them had their own distinctive quality, which could not be identified with good family affinity or consanguinity. There was no bond between them, Jay and his siblings.